The visit to Nepal by UN Chief Antonio Gutteres had all attention the past few days. During his 4-day stay, the UN head managed to visit culturally significant sites in the country and also mountainous regions most affected by global climate crisis. This evening, Gutteres addressed the federal parliament, pledging to continue with the support to the Himalayan nation with its efforts for transitional justice, SDGs and climate concerns. Good evening, I'm Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres addresses the joint sitting of the Parliament, reiterates his commitment to help address climate change concerns of Nepal. Several parts of the country, including Kathmandu Valley, reports of shortage of blood. Nepal Red Cross Society says blood collection dropped due to temporary exodus during Dahal festival. Israel says there were large exchanges with Hamas in Gaza overnight as its ground offensive continues. Says it hit more than 300 targets. Hamas says it ambushed 3 Israeli vehicles with anti-tank missiles. And Nepal enters into the semi-final of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup qualifiers, defeating Malaysia by 6 wickets. Kushal Malla scores a half-century in Nepal's win. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has addressed the joint sitting of the federal parliament. Guterres began in his speech by thanking the Nepal government and Nepalese for the hospitality that he was greeted with and appreciated Nepal's effort in ensuring gender equality. The UN chief expressed UN's continued commitment to supporting Nepal's smooth transitioning as it graduates from its least developed nation status soon. Guterres said UN respects Nepal's leadership in transitional process and stands ready to support with the process in line with the international standards. He also asked for a 1 minute of silence in honor of the Nepalese who have lost their lives while serving in the UN peacekeeping missions. Guterres called Nepal a frontrunner in climate actions and suggested that Nepal had made notable strides in reaching net zero carbon goal. He reiterated that Nepal had minimum contribution in global carbon emission but witnessed climate change-induced disasters like glacier lake outburst floods and landslides, calling for greater support for development and climate actions of the country, highlighting on loss and damage. In his own words, Guterres said, "There is loss, there is damage, and there must be compensation." Guterres emphasized on his commitment to address Nepal's climate change concerns. He also appreciated the warmth of Nepalese people, the richness of the cultural diversity of the country, and the sanctity of Lumbini, the birthplace of Gautam Buddha. Let us now connect to our colleague Pradip Dahal, who is currently at the Federal Parliament premise. Pradip, if you can hear us, what's your take on the address by Secretary-General Antonio Guterres?
Well, Sarah, first of all, it was quite a compassionate address by Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, at the joint meeting of the both houses of the Federal Parliament of Nepal earlier this afternoon. Well, considering his visit, the 4-day visit that he has had of Nepal and the places he's visited, in his own words, the visit was enormous success. After the meeting of the Parliament, both houses of the Parliament, we had the opportunity of also speaking with the Prime Minister, former Prime Ministers out here, and they termed the visit an enormous success as well. So considering the aspects that he has raised, the issues that he has tried to address and include in his speech at the Parliament today, it goes without saying that he has highlighted Nepal's climate concerns, Nepal's transitional peace process, and the achievements Nepal has been making in terms of combating the impacts of climate change, be it with the natural disasters that are happening, raising awareness, the inclination towards alternative energies that Nepal is moving forward with. All those aspects have been raised during his 4-day visit. So looking at all these aspects, yes, the visit has been successful. Even the government has appreciated the visit, while Secretary-General Gutteres has also appreciated the hospitality and the efforts made by not just the government, even the local residents to make sure that the issues of Nepal are made aware throughout the world as well, Shara.
Pradip, how do you think Nepal can benefit from this visit by the UN chief?
Well, Sarah, considering the presence of media out here, we just did not have the presence of only the Nepali media outlets. We also had representatives from global media. So the issues raised by UN Secretary General at today's meeting and during his visit, the entire visit, have been heard of by the global media as well and the audience as well. So the aspects related to Nepal's climate concerns, Nepal's initiatives in terms of what he said was impeccable initiative with the exemplary afforestation program, raising awareness about climate concerns as well. So all those aspects have been made heard at the global level. He also called for larger support and action from developed nations for countries like developing countries like Nepal, who barely emit any carbon emissions, but at the same time are one of the worst victims of disasters and the consequences of climate change. So those issues have been made heard not just by the government of Nepal, but also the UN Secretary General. So the impact has spread throughout in fact, the voice has been spread throughout the world. So this should actually, with the COP coming up very soon, these voices should be reiterated, reinforced, and actions must be taken, because only making commitments has been a thing of past. We've seen so many leaders making those commitments, including our own government leadership. But when the COP comes very soon, we hope these voices are translated into implementation, Sarah.
The UN chief's visit was certainly a big message of itself in the international community. How do you think this has been viewed by people in the country and also international stakeholders?
Well, considering the scale of natural disasters Nepal has been facing in the past decade, all because of the impacts of climate change, the sufferings have been felt by the local residents of remote parts of Nepal throughout the country, be it in the mountains where the glaciers are melting at an alarming rate, record levels, as the UN Secretary General Antonio Gutteres mentioned earlier, to the floods and the impacts that the natural disasters have on the drinking water networks, the impact on babies, children, senior citizens, their health conditions, the damages on the infrastructures and the reconstruction process that it takes. All these factors add an economic toll on Nepal, which is just taking its strides after the political transformation in terms of sustainable development goals, its own economic development, growth rates, aspirations. So all these aspects have been raised by His Excellency the UN Secretary General as well. And considering the message that she's sent today to the parliamentarians and the government representatives as well, including the diplomats who are present here and the international community, we really hope this goes out as a good message and calls for better actions from Nepal's development partners as well and the global community, because only Nepal making afforestation initiatives is just not enough, because we're not the largest of emitters. In fact, we are, as he said, 0.000x% is what we do, but the commitment from the rest of the world, the developed countries, has not been coming for Nepal. So we really hope with this visit, it sends a strong message and calls for the developed countries to take actions and support Nepal, be a better friend of Nepal, because Nepal has always been a good friend to the rest of the world, Sarah.
Thanks, Praramba. That was our colleague Praramba Dahal from the Parliament building premise in New Baneshore in Kathmandu. Earlier in the morning, the UN chief had visited Annapurna base camp to take the stock of impacts of climate change in the region. Gutteres had flown to the base camp on a Nepal Army helicopter, and on behalf of the locals of Annapurna Rural Municipality, Chair Bishnu Keshi had detailed the UN chief about the impacts the region has seen because of climate change. In response, Gutteres had said Himalayan nation like Nepal had been a victim due to activities of developed countries. After spending around 45 minutes at the base camp, Gutteres returned to Pokhara Airport and held a press meet where he highlighted the need for the world community to support countries like Nepal.
The reason of my visit was exactly to send a clear message to the world. It's essential to stop this war against nature. It's essential to stop polluting and generating climate change, because we must preserve these wonderful mountains and these wonderful glaciers. And it's essential to support Nepal and to support other countries that do not contribute to climate change but suffer the consequences. So many floods, so many landslides, so many communities that are deeply impacted negatively.
Gutteres also said at the current pace of impacts of climate change, the Himalayan region would no longer remain the same. Earlier, Gutteres had also called for world peace as he visited the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, Lumbini. Meanwhile, Minister for Foreign Affairs N.P. Saud, who is on an official trip to the U.S., has met with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. The bilateral meeting followed by a joint press conference where Blinken said Nepal was an important partner to the U.S.'s Indo-Pacific region. Minister Saud highlighted on the age-old friendship between U.S. and Nepal and added that U.S. was Nepal's development partner. The U.S. had first published its Indo-Pacific strategy in 2019. However, Nepal has maintained it will refrain from participating in any security strategies and that Nepal will remain a good friend of the U.S. in Indo-Pacific region. Shortage of blood has been reported in various parts of the country, including Kathmandu Valley, Chitwan and Kaski districts. Service seekers are having to return empty-handed from blood banks. According to Nepal Red Cross Society's Central Blood Bank, the temporary exodus of people from Kathmandu Valley to celebrate the recently concluded Dashain festival reduced collection. The blood bank has said the current demand of the valley is 800 units of blood per day. However, collection has been limited to 60%. Blood banks of the Nepal Red Cross Society across 75 districts collects around 300,000 units of blood annually, of which 50% is consumed in Kathmandu Valley. There are other community-based and private organizations that collect blood. Red Cross Society says the current shortage will be addressed in a few days. Hearing at Supreme Court in the writ filed by Bharati Sherpa against the pardon granted to Yograj Dahal, aka Regal, who had been convicted for murder, is to continue tomorrow. A full bench led by Acting Chief Justice Ishwar Prasad Khatiwada is hearing the writ. On 12th of October, a full bench of Chief Justice Vishwambar Prasad Shrestha had scheduled the hearing for 31st of October, saying that the hearing could not be left in between. The preliminary hearing by Apex Court Justice Manoj Sharma on 6th of October had ordered for a full bench hearing to conclude the case. However, the bench led by Chief Justice Shrestha on the 12th had rescheduled the hearing. The National Human Rights Commission, NHRC and the civil society has been raising serious concerns against the granting of pardon to murder convicts based on their political affiliations. In July 2015, Dahal, a local Congress worker, had killed Manandhar in broad daylight with local weapon. He was convicted of the murder and given 20 years jail by the Bakia District Court in 2018. Dahal had served 8 years of jail term when his remaining 12 years had been pardoned. Now, the police have arrested 6 individuals, including a female, in connection with the murder of the principal of Bal Ekata boarding school, Kalaya, Rupesh Swarnakar. The police had begun investigation yesterday itself. The arrested female has been identified as a former staff of the school, while the 2 others have also been employed by the school itself. 3 others are Indian nationals, according to Bara police, who have also said that Swarnakar had survived an attempt to murder before, based on the statements taken from those arrested. 4 individuals had approached Swarnakar on motorcycles yesterday afternoon at 1 p.m. as he was leaving a local cafe. The perpetrator had fired 4 rounds of shots at him. Swarnakar was rushed to the Kalaya Provincial Hospital, which referred to take him to Vayodhya Hospital in Birganj. However, he succumbed to injuries while receiving treatment. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse, brought to you by Prabhu Bank, risen for your success. Sundarta ka lagi Rose Face Soap. Rees College of Engineering and Management, Balkumari, Lalitpur. Uniglobe SS and College, Kamladi, Kathmandu.
The question is, why is there constant dispute between the centre and provinces regarding jurisdiction? Your options are A. Unclear law, B. Centralized mentality, and C. Lack of coordination. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. Israel has said there were large exchanges with Hamas in Gaza overnight as its ground offensive continues. The IDF has said its forces were attacked by terrorists with anti-tank missiles and machine gun fire. Airstrikes on the Gaza Strip also continued overnight, as Israel says more than 300 targets were hit in total. Israel says it's focusing on northern Gaza but continues to strike all parts of the Strip. Hamas, meanwhile, has said it ambushed 3 Israeli vehicles with anti-tank missiles and attacked ground troops with shells in southern Gaza. Israel has been bombing Gaza since the 7 October Hamas attacks that killed 1,400 people and saw at least 239 people kidnapped as hostages. At least 8,525 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in Israeli attacks since October 7. Nepal has entered into the semi-finals of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup qualifiers, defeating Malaysia by 6 wickets. In the match held in Two Cricket Ground in Kantipur, Malaysia had elected to bat first. Malaysia posted 165 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in the stipulated 20 overs. Saeed Aziz had top score for Malaysia with 68 runs in 49 balls. Zubaidi Zulkifli contributed 24 runs for 16 balls. Sharvin Munaindi and Vijay Anni added 13 runs each, while none of the other batters scored in double digits. Abhinas Bohra was the pick of the Nepalese bowlers, claiming 4 wickets. Sandeep Lamichhane, Gulshan Jha and Rohit Paudel each took 1 wicket for Nepal. Chasing 166 runs for victory, Nepal reached the target in 18 overs, losing 4 wickets. Kushal Malla shined with the bat, scoring 65 runs for 34 balls. Kushal Bhurtel was the second highest scorer for Nepal with 43 runs. Asif Sheikh scored 32 runs, while Sandeep Jora contributed 18 runs. Skipper Rohit Paudel and Vivek Yadav each returned to the pavilion for just 2 runs. Muhammad Amir was the pick of the Malaysian bowlers, taking 3 wickets, while Pavandeep Singh took 1 wicket. Meanwhile, in another match under the ICC T20 Men's World Cup qualifier, Oman defeated Singapore by 22 runs. And that is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.